I'm here today, this version of me, the one doing this TEDx talk, because of sharks and my love for them. I'm here to tell you how they saved my life. Here's our story. So at 36, I was in love, married a really cute guy, and I was an invincible CEO. Having started my company at 23, I was really proud of myself. I was a veteran. Well, less than 1 year later, I was in a miserable marriage, feeling like the most vulnerable CEO on the planet and on the brink of what I don't know, but I felt like I was on the edge of a cliff every day. My two great loves, my husband and my company, were now the source of a bottomless pain and darkness I had never known. And this was incredibly jarring for me. I'm that person blessed with really good serotonin levels. I'm that person who's usually super positive, super resilient. Now, I just felt like a super loser. For the first time in my life, I was depressed. So much so that I even wondered if it would be easier to not be around. Yeah, me, Super Sue Chen, thought those thoughts. I was in an emotionally abusive relationship with my husband, and my company involved in a lawsuit that was going to drag us way down and done. The Nova CEO, who had always carried the torch, was now powerless. And when you are in an abusive relationship, it controls you. Your body, your mind, your spirit. Past, present, and future. It's a prison. My loved ones felt hopeless, but I could see the sadness and pain in their eyes because they could see my eyes. I was no longer me. Okay, I'm going to lighten the mood for just a moment and go back a couple years from that point and tell you about the first time I met a shark. As fate would have it, on my very first official dive as a certified diver in the waters of Hawaii, the very first thing I saw was a black-tip reef shark. Not sure what I felt, but my dive master told me that I was very lucky to have such a rare and epic encounter. So very excited about my new blue world, I was off to the Galapagos Islands in 2006 for more epic encounters. And boy, did I have them. Dolphins, penguins, sea lions, and sharks, hundreds of them. Was I afraid? No. They were actually very shy, beautiful, and fearful of me. Okay, back to that lowest point in my life. I hated being me, and would often feel that from the moment I woke up to when I finally fell asleep. And as someone who doesn't really like to sleep, now I just wanted to shut my eyes and just shut down. It was during that time that I started dreaming about sharks and their suffering. Not in specifics, but the devastation was a nightmare. This happened night after night. What was going on? My brain's current data bank about sharks consisted of consuming shark fin soup, which is a Chinese delicacy, on several special event type of occasions, and a few dive encounters. So where did these overwhelming and powerful dreams come from? I started waking up more and more lucid about sharks and less of my own misery. So much so that I simply could not get sharks out of my mind or my heart. So while I was depressed and on that brink, I fell in love with sharks. Never could I imagine that I would fall in love with the most feared animal on the planet. And because of that fear and the explosive demand for shark fin soup, and I mean explosive, in the last 10 years, over 500 million sharks have been killed in the most cruel manner. Their fins sliced off and the shark thrown back in the ocean to slowly die. So sharks on our planet for 450 million years and vital to the health of our oceans are being wiped out to extinction for a soup. Love meant that I needed to do that something, the only way I know how, the Super Sue way, which is all in. So as I started my quest to save sharks, I started to feel emotions that were crushed and absent. Passion, fight, courage. So for me in my life so far, what was happening here did not make sense. Fall in love with sharks and want to save them? I'll get to that in a bit. But what was also was first for me was that I could not pull myself out of this place of misery. You see, I was really good at compartmentalizing or zapping hard and painful emotions. And I had practice. My father, who was also my best friend, died after a long battle with cancer when I was 14. No kid is equipped to lose a parent. But I do remember watching Gone with the Wind and feeling the power of Scarlett O'Hara. As she says, as God is my witness, I will never go hungry again. We can all recall that line. But there's another great Scarlett quote. She says, I'm not going to think about this today. I'm going to think about that tomorrow. I thought, well, me too. I'll use that same approach to get through the stress of my dad's illness, death, and any challenge that will come my way. I'll think about it later, compartmentalize, block it out. And by doing so, I can smile, get back to being turbo me, and most of all, not feel the pain. You know, I'm not alone. Most of us compartmentalize, block things out, even rewire or rewrite the past. There are a lot of coping philosophies out there, from Scarlett O'Hara's Think About It Tomorrow to Elsa of Frozen's fame, Let It Go. I even found over 7,000 titles on Amazon.com with letting go of pain or letting go of anger. But is that reality? Can you really let it go or lock it away? I believe the answer is no. When I hit bottom and on that brink, my tried and true coping skills did not work. Here's why. Because of your emotional bucket. I came up with emotional bucket because it is a solo single container, no compartments, no release hatches. What goes in there stays in there, and it's all seeped together. Your emotional bucket contains love, passion, joy, but also other big emotions such as hate, resentment, anger. These powerful emotions are cultivated, nourished, drive how you feel, what you do, and how you live. As my love and passion for sharks gained place in my emotional bucket, resentment and anger started to wane, and I started feeling like me again. Those emotional extremes are all in there together, but one side does prevail. Love and passion indeed prevailed in my life, giving me the strength, the clarity, and the courage to accept responsibility, make tough decisions, and forge change. I got out of my abusive marriage and renewed the love for my company and our mission to improve and save lives. So far that makes sense, right? When your emotional bucket is full of bad, debilitating emotions, you need to put in good, powerful emotions. But how are the emotions going to get in there? Especially when you are locked down at the bottom and not able to think about anything other than your own miserable place. Now here's where I'm going to get out there and make you think. Let's go back to that other does not make sense. Why, at the lowest point in my life, was I compelled by love to save sharks? I believe that is when a higher calling comes in to save you. This calling to save sharks that came to my dreams night after night was not in my controls, not in my plans. Do you ever wonder why someone's on an obsessed mission? Like John Freehand's 47 years researching and furthering the cause of the dung beetle, to Fei Mi Naun's quest to save the most vulnerable Cambodian women and children from slavery and poverty. I've worked with over 100 nonprofit leaders, including the CNN heroes, people doing ridiculously amazing work, and asked them what propelled them to do so much more, so obsessively. Ultimately, it was a calling beyond their control, something they could not shake. Sure, there are experiences in life that ignite a passion or an interest. I had an amazing connection with sharks, but I've connected with lots of animals and didn't feel compelled to save them. So what drives you to do more, crazy more, like you may not be in control? Maybe there are forces at work that we do not deliberately or consciously choose. They choose us. Maybe the world needs that random connection that's perfectly matched, perfectly timed. Maybe those forces at work need you to save yourself, save something in order to save yourself. Now, let's go back to that emotional bucket that's been through a personal hell, which now has a healthy dose of painful emotions permanent in your life landscape. Once you know the landscape of pain, you can also know the landscape of change, disruption, and the unimaginable. Because knowing pain and having been to the dark side and come back equips you to go head-to-head and conquer the most debilitating of emotions, and that is fear. It's an incredible chemistry that happens in your emotional bucket when pain, suffering, and misery are mixed in with passion and love prevailing. Maybe that emotional bucket alchemy is where human superpowers come from. And the reality is that these higher callings need human superpowers to correct an injustice, save a species, change the world. Our greatest human heroes have emotional buckets with tremendous pain and suffering, with love prevailing. Your emotional bucket is always yours, always with you, and the most powerful part of who you are. You can reach in any time because it is yours and no one else's. So, how are my sharks doing? Well, in 2011, California was the largest jurisdiction to ban shark fin trade and consumption. And last year, the China Daily reported that consumption of shark fin soup was down in China by 70%. So my beloved sharks may have a chance. And would you believe me if I told you that they loved me back? In 2013, with a few fellow shark advocates, we took 3 wounded veterans and took them on a shark expedition to inspire our American heroes to become shark heroes. Here's a clip of how Emma, the tiger shark, showed her affection for all of us. Isn't she cute? I miss her. So I don't know if I'm going to be able to save our sharks, but I'll never stop trying. It's the least I can do for saving my life. We are 7.2 billion people and 8.7 unique species on one planet. One planet. And as far as I know, there's no backup plan. Somehow we need to figure out how to be together and protect our home. The future relies on us today. So trust the calling and the power of your emotional bucket. Last year, we lost Maya Angelou, the most beautiful voice of the human heart. Miss Angelou, if I may quote you, listen to yourself. And in that quietude, you might hear the voice of God. Thank you.